Right, we're joined today with my guest Tony Stahl from Rocktape. Thanks for coming in, Tony.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, Tony, talk to us about how long has Rocktape been around for? How'd you get into it, and what's your history?
Okay, so back in 2010, I went and ran the Boston Marathon with a mate, and while we were there, spent a bit of time in the expo as you do, and had a bit of a dodgy Achilles, so I thought I'd get it sussed out and had some tape put on, help me achieve my goals, and so we sort of got pretty interested and came back.
So you're there on a holiday. Did you have to go on a ballot for the Boston Marathon?
You have to run a qualifying time.
Right, and yours was?
Mine was probably about a 2:48, I think, for that one.
Yes, very similar to my qualifying time.
A few years ago now.
Yeah, well, not that many years ago. Right, good qualifying time. Right. Yeah. And now, is it true that the Boston Marathon runs all downhill?
There is a big heartbreak hill, but I must admit there is a bit of blurriness in that race for me, so I can't remember.
Why is that?
Just running on the edge. I was after a certain target time, and
your brain was frazzled.
Yeah.
Really? What did you end up getting?
2:49. So I was trying to run in the 40s while I was 40.
Yes.
Managed to sneak under it.
40s while you're 40. I'm running in the 30s, in my 30s, but beautiful. An hour later than you. So obviously I did the Cam Marathon a little while ago, and like 4 weeks ago, and got a 3:39. So
beautiful. Still
in the 30s.
Excellent.
In my 30s, and just recently I did a 4:33, so still doing it in the 30s. That's 2 hours slower. But so you use Rocktape and had you applied it before you had run a marathon?
No, so broke one of those,
That's like the cardinal rule.
Yeah, exactly, that's right. But had water around the expo, felt good, had my very gentle run with it on. Could hardly feel it. Very subtle.
And it was an Achilles tendinopathy.
Just had that little bit of puffiness.
Overtraining.
Probably. Probably that. That sort of theory that you had to do lots of miles back then. So probably it took its toll.
Cool. And you got through it?
Got through it, yeah.
Happy days. And then what, Rocktape from the Northeast?
Rocktape's based in the US, they're American design product based in San Fran, head office, HQ. Then they were sort of looking to, franchise the product, and we were just in the right place at the right time. And
And now, how did they select you guys to? So it's yourself and
two others. Steve, my brother, is a physio, and Darren, who I did the marathon with. As I said, we started communicating with Greg, and we obviously.
And they picked you guys for the Australian counter. And Darren was a friend of yours from way back.
Yes. Yeah.
And you broke the next cardinal rule. Getting into business with a mate.
With a mate and family. I don't know, family as well. So
So you got the whole trio there.
Yes.
And how's business going with the family and friends?
Great. 7 years on, and we're still buddies, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Well, is there anything in particular that you do different to anybody else to maintain that, the balance? So not tearing Darren's head off, and how do you guys maintain friendship?
I think it's a bit of a yin and yang sort of type setup. We're at different stages of families, and so we have different priorities at different times, and it just seems to gel well together.
Yeah, right.
I'm from an accounting conservative background. He's from a sales and real gung ho go get 'em background, and between the two of us.
And your brother Steve.
He's the physio, so he's.
So you've got you, who's the lining everything up in a row.
Process.
You got Darren, who's bulldog.
Correct.
Yeah, and then you got Steve, who's the physio medical side.
That's correct. Yeah.
Done. Right. Got Rocktape Australia.
Correct.
And are partners involved in this? i.e. wives, are they working in the business as well?
No, they just curse the amount of travel that we do, and we never home and things like that.
And so has that been from the get-go? The amount of travel that you guys have done?
Yes. Probably more even in the early days, because we used to conduct all the courses ourselves, would go along, present them, well, not me present them, but I'd be there for a lot of them, getting out to a lot of events. Now, as we've grown, we've been able to find some people that like-minded people that
in each state you've got your network of people that you're able to call upon to do the training.
Practitioners based in each state who will run courses for us, which is great, and then we have a young events girl who goes to an event every weekend for us around Australia, basically. Yeah.
What, the same girl goes?
Same girl, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
You're just
so-
paying for her travel to zip
Correct.
around that?
You know, because you got to bump in day before, you're there for 2-3 days, bump
Yep.
out, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, she's off to the next location.
So, and how many do you do a year? How many events?
We probably do about 100 events. So,
That's insane.
yeah, when you include your conferences, your expos, your races,
Yep.
all that sort of thing.
Yeah. And so now these events, they're marathons. I saw them up at the Ironman in Port Macquarie. Saw them up at the Mooloolaba triathlon there
Yes.
as well. Talk to me about what type of stuff do you guys go to? You know, what is the biggest bang for your buck from a distribution type of company?
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's a real mixture. We go to fitness expos. We go to some. We've been to garden expos and everything.
Garden expos?
Yeah. So the whole lot. Yeah.
What? That's an unusual pitch there.
Yeah.
Like what's your angle in terms of your customer at a garden expo?
I guess when we started, it was a sports tape. That's where people had seen it on athletes.
Yeah.
But it's not only for your athletes. The benefits can be felt by anyone.
Right.
Whether it be someone like a lawnmower guy who's in repetition.
Yeah,
He's bent over the lawnmower to your gardener to we've got an ageing population. So your lower back pain, your knee pain, all that sort of thing.
So it's very much about just getting the as much exposure as you could do to consumers as well as
Correct.
businesses.
Yes. So
Has it been more successful from a consumer standpoint or a business standpoint, or a bit of both?
a bit of both, yeah. It's sort of the lines sort of blur a little bit at times.
Yep.
So it's a combination, and like with most marketing, it's hard to sort of pin everything to one. There's so many things happening at once, sort of hopefully all combining to create awareness.
And with those expos, you're talking about hard to pin it to one. How do you figure out what your ROI is? Do you set out 100 expos, it's going to cost you $500,000 to go to them and set up, etc. Then you get a phone call on the Tuesday for an order. How accurate is your information about where your customers come from and all that kind of garbage? Like, are you finding that the depth of your relationships, you can't do an ROI on that because you're getting customers a year or two down the track when they've seen you at an expo? Like, can you elaborate on how do you figure out where to spend your dollars?
It's very difficult. We have a bit of a gut feel, I guess. But it is hard to pin it down because often, even with practitioners who attend courses, we'll ask them where's the source of their inquiry.
Yep.
And often it's sort of over time they've sort of seen the brand, they've seen the product, they've become aware that we're running courses, and so there's been a combination of things. And I think it's also the same with when we meet a customer at an event who's got a sore knee, we'll tape them up, and then they might talk to someone or in another 6 months' time get another injury when they're training for their next event with overtraining, and all of a sudden think the rock tape again, and then go to their pharmacy and buy a roll of tape. So very difficult to quantify.
Does the dynamic taping group, Kinesio tape, K-tape, Grip It, another one, is that one?
Yes.
Do you guys are you all friends?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
We try not to sort of, we bump into each other regularly at events, or some of the brands regularly.
Is there an understanding that you've all got to move in the same direction? You've got to grow this market. If you can double the size of the market,
correct.
You've doubled.
Yes.
Everybody's.
That's right. So there's benefits for all of us growing the category and doing it in a way that is going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
But sometimes Coke never mentioned Pepsi. Pepsi tend to mention Coke.
Yeah.
We find that we don't sort of, have to sort of refer to other brands too much. We'll just go and do our thing, and we think we do it well. So.
And do you think that yourselves and all the other brands are doing enough to advance the cause of dynamic taping as a general concept? So, for instance, in the physio world, it often feels like we're a pack of seagulls going after chips. The chips are the injured patients in society. That's the easy pickings, and we're going after those chips, rather than educating the rest of the seagulls that they might benefit from physiotherapy as well. Classic thing is I haven't seen the APA do an ad on television. I haven't seen our representative body ever promote physiotherapy as its own thing. It's all of our private physiotherapy entities paying $5 a click on AdWords, paying to go to expos to try to beat the next bloke down the road, constantly beating the pavement just to scrap over the current existing patients rather than growing our marketplace.
Yes.
And I think if all of us physios could just get over ourselves for 5 minutes and come together as a group and maybe do group buying power into national ads and national exposure for what physio does. I think chiro probably even does it better than physio does.
We regularly see them at expos and events,
and just chiropractic associations and what they do. So my point is that do you think dynamic taping and even postural supports are doing enough to create generalist exposure, or is it more about price competitiveness, trying to make your brand stand out from the other brands in an already existing marketplace?
Yeah, look, it's a tough question. I mean, I think that we're pretty much focused on what we can control, which is getting out there with and educating the people that we can come in contact with, whether it be your practitioners or your end users, providing a quality product that's going to stick on the athlete for the Ironman marathon for a couple of days if they're climbing up and down a ladder doing their thing.
I guess that's a form of growing the marketplace, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, if only 5% of physios are using dynamic taping, and then you're educating 20% of the physios the benefits of it, you're increasing exposure fourfold.
That's correct. Yes.
So there is an element of that. Are all the other brands participating in this continuing education as well? To some degree.
We would run the majority of courses, I think, in that space.
Yep.
Which is obviously a sort of demand thing as well.
Yep.
Whether it be cities, regional centres, we'll get out there and do it to improve the category.
Do you find the loyalty then follows pretty closely?
Definitely, particularly in the regional areas. Yep. They love the fact that someone will go to them and offer a...
How regional are we talking?
Well, we've been to just recently Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, Broome.
Yep. Wow, that's great.
So, Darwin is obviously the capital, but in New South Wales, Orange, Newcastle, Wollongong, Coffs Harbour.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So I guess you pretty much answered that you, by doing these education things and spreading the actual dynamic taping method, you are growing the market share.
Correct, and that's right. And we're conscious of the fact that there's not only our product out there, so we can increase the education, which doesn't necessarily prevent the person going and buying another brand.
Yep.
So that makes it a little bit challenging as well. But
is there a price war going on?
Not really. I mean, there's cheaper Chinese products that tend to sort of follow into the industry, into the category.
Yeah. Are they normally vertically aligned with the distributors?
Some of them are, yes. Yes, it's a bit of a combination.
Yeah.
But once again, our strategy has tried to follow the skins compression sort of relationship and see if we can establish ourselves as a bit of a generic brand through our exposure at lots of events and gets it in a lot of products.
And so, like Rocktape as a brand, what is what person would represent Rocktape? Can you think of somebody who would be like, that's the personality of our brand? Can you describe what the personality of the Rocktape brand is?
Geez, I reckon it could cover many people. I mean, I know my kids love it, because whether it's sort of the growing pains that they're feeling or a little bit of which is probably the typical thing, they love bright colours. They want to stand out. They want to clash with their school uniform and physio tape and get away with it. Right up to the other end of the spectrum where you've got the elderly patient with a bit of osteoarthritis on their knee. Some of them love the bright, funky colours as well. So just being a little bit different. It's right across the spectrum, I guess. Rocktape is about sort of trying to be able to continue to do what you love, whether it's running a marathon, playing basketball, doing your trade as a tradie, being sitting in the office or whatever.
It's funny how you're talking about with kids wanting to stand out. There was this thing pretty early on when dynamic taping came out, and it was pinks and blues and whatnot, and I'm not going to say I'm old school because I'm not, but there was a a thing where it felt like people were doing it to stand out. Felt like people were wearing it just for significance, that, previously it's like, well, man, we've been playing sport for 50 years and we've never had these pink tapes and blue tapes, and there was this resistance, and even I was very, very guilty of it, and I was just like, it's a crock of shit, it's they're doing it because, the physio that's looking after the first grade team at Parramatta, I'm just blow-shitting here, just wants to stand out that they actually know their shit. And the people that are doing it day in, day out, seeing 60 different patients a week, us trenches physios, when we first saw it come out, we were just like, this is such a flash in the pan. Like, we thought it was just, as soon as it came in, it would be gone out. Here we go, 10 years later, and it's still getting stronger. And I think the benefits of it, the research that's coming out with tape, that we are often under the false premise that what we're doing with tape is actually changing, physical alignments and often changing things, where often it's the proprioceptive components, it's the neurological components. And so there's, as we're getting more savvy with our evidence-based medicine, and we've talked about how I think that it's got a long way to go. I think the dynamic tapes are coming in more and more. Yes. Because the less you can intervene for the same result, the better. Yes. That's the key here, isn't it? So do you want to elaborate on that with respects to, what the public opinion was when you first brought it out? Were you guys quacks in 2010, and was it a hard sell?
It was. Physios, love their evidence generally, and so that was a bit of a blocker. But typically we could, we convinced a couple to give it a go. Yeah. A few of the more innovative younger practitioners, and it was then the anecdotal evidence that they would find. Their patients love it because they can actually still move. Yeah. For many, I guess it fitted in with that change in approach, going from really restricting movement to trying to get people moving again more quickly within a controlled manner. Yeah. So that sort of worked with us.
The anecdotal evidence is interesting because I don't think that there's enough emphasis on anecdotal evidence, because these studies can take years to design. They take ages to get funded. They're often shit in their design. We talked about this before, and that often they come out with the end result in mind. They design the study because they want to have the end result in mind. So therefore, if we're having to wait for innovative products to be tested, first of all, you need the masses to start to use them before anybody will think about funding a study. Yes. And so the anecdotal evidence, I do find is normally the strongest evidence behind something working. And then often you see it go to trial, and then it's like, well, it hasn't worked. And it's like, well, I don't believe that, because anecdotally, I'm constantly getting this feedback. I tried on one client, it works. They tell me it works. I don't use it on them the next time. They don't feel as good. It goes to trial. It says it does not work, let's say, for instance. But anecdotally, I've always had the opposite feeling. My gut tells me that anecdotal evidence in the clinic is so much more powerful in a private practice setting than waiting for these studies to be, to validate equipment. And I guess that must have been your angle early on.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah. Just try it.
That's right. We don't try and sell it to the practitioners or the end users, saying this is something that replaces something that they may already be doing. It's just another adjunct or piece of equipment that can enhance the benefits of the other treatments that they've received.
So it's the 1%ers.
That's right.
Yeah. It's the 1%ers, because they're the ones that that's what gets us injured, and it's what gets us fixed. And so now, in that line, what have you guys been involved in much of the studies? Do you get dragged into the universities to test these things out? How much involvement have you guys had at Rocktape to displaying their evidence-based efficacy?
We typically try and encourage the studies to be undertaken. We'll give suggestions on things that we think would be interesting to test. Provide tape, and then provide training so that people are using it in the right sort of way, and then typically step back so that we're not seen to be involved or influencing the results. Yeah, okay. So there's plenty of studies going on. It is becoming a bit of a topical adjunct. So it's starting to generate interest and studies. So
are you seeing any? So the amount of universities that are getting involved in physio is exploding. is going off the charts. Are you finding any universities more innovative than the others in this space?
There is a couple, in particular in Perth. Notre Dame was a university that physio-wise that wanted to get an understanding of the product. Day one, 7 or 8 years ago.
Where did they get all of their staff from when they kicked off? Did they poach it from anywhere? How long has Notre Dame been running for?
Quite a while in Perth. I'm not exactly sure when it started.
Because Curtin's the other big one.
Yeah, that's right. So typically, unfortunately, syllabuses, physio universities, for example, are chockers. Very difficult to convince someone to drop something out. So therefore, we find it's very difficult to get kinesiology in. So typically, we will offer universities students the chance to do some kinesiology taping externally, and we'll happily go along and provide some.
And that influences the culture internally, and then eventually, they're on the student unions. They're advising their lecturers on what they want, and the syllabus changes, I guess, over time. Hopefully, it's funny because when I was going to uni, we still learnt shortwave diathermy, all these ridiculous modalities. And it would spend so much time having to learn the contraindications and the precautions and all this garbage about these things that then the following lecture was none of them work. It was so bizarre. So it's like, well, why did we waste? I think it was called EPA, electrophysical agents, was the course. We did ultrasound and interferential and shortwave diathermy, etc. And would be spending so much time going through this stuff. And my attendance at uni wasn't exemplary, so I can't complain too much. But the point is that then the following lecture to then let us know that all of those things are ineffective. Why the hell aren't we then looking at more innovative programs? And it does seem that the universities are often a little bit too reactive rather than proactive in medicine. That they don't want to have egg on their face to get invested in something that shows to be ineffective. They would rather teach something that is traditional but accepted as ineffective than get involved in something that's maybe new age.
Yes.
I'd like to see a big change there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think physios, students in particular, have a thirst for particularly for taping. A lot of them working with sports teams, and something that they can do to help. And as a 48-year-old, I don't think we ever stop learning, and hopefully the physio lecturers are the same, and they're looking for new, innovative ways to move with the times.
And look, and we get new grads on, and we don't expect them to have a tremendous level of practical knowledge. They when we interview them, their eyes are essentially blank and they're reading from their textbook, and you've got to beat the hell out of them to stop them from talking like a textbook. And university's meant to be this mind expanding thing, but these guys come out of uni and they're just straight and they're just regurgitating garbage that they've heard over and over and over and over and over. And whereas I'd love to see the unis teaching more about how to learn, much more about how to learn and how to learn practically. Like, that's the biggest thing. It's physiotherapy with our hands, but all we do is we go and sit in lectures and listen to, constant reams of anatomy and physiology, and we're learning all of the, the textbook stuff behind it. And there is so little done into how to be a practice innovator, So I'm going to teach you taping, but I'm also going to teach you how to invent different forms of taping so that you can go out and learn it. Now, we were talking downstairs about how one of your key points of difference with Rocktape is that you don't put people in boxes. You don't put...
That's right.
Talk to me about that.
So we typically in courses will try and teach a framework to the for the approach to use the tape. So it's about teaching the skills to apply it correctly, a bit of the theory behind the benefits of using it, but then encourage the practitioner to use their clinical reasoning to modify the taping applications depending on what the patient's presenting with. So it's not a recipe book approach. It's just teaching people, giving them the tools so they know how to use it, and then they can modify it accordingly as their patients provide feedback.
And I guess that's really powerful, because if you try doing taping via a textbook and it doesn't work, well, taping doesn't work. But that's not true. You alter the taping. You see if that works. You alter it again. You go, center hamstring, lateral hamstring, medial hamstring. Extend it down into the calf. See what ends up getting a result. And again, by liberating people like what you're saying and saying these are the principles, but go hell for leather. Just that is the key, and that's the key to innovation.
That's right, and that approach seems to resonate very well with many younger practitioners these days. They don't want to be sort of put in a box and told this is the way to do it. They want to have that flexibility.
I think that's the next level. I'm pretty excited about the millennials coming out because they're pretty arrogant, a lot of them, but their style is fascinating because they don't want to be put in a box. And that's my biggest fear in life, getting put in a box. And that's why I didn't like going to lectures at university, because I just had to sit there. It was back when they used to put it up on an overhead projector and you had to write out things. And I'd sit there and fall asleep within 5 minutes, and because they were putting me in that box. Where the millennials are coming out, they're on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. They can fact check anything that you say to them. They're like, oh, you're full of shit. I just fact checked it whilst you were talking to somebody else, And so they have this power of information.
Yes.
And what they want is instantaneous results. Like there's no other generation before them. They want to earn 90 grand first year out of uni. And when they get into physio and they realise that you turn 90 grand in private practice, it's next near impossible as a first year grad. But they want those instantaneous results.
Yes.
And textbooks never get you an instantaneous results. But innovation through learning instantly, i.e. trial and error, that gets you instant results. I reckon that these millennials are going to be mint. They'll take our physio game and the taping game to the next level. So rock blades as well. This is a thing that's very dear to my heart. So I'm a manual therapist.
Yes.
My biggest tool, apart from my hands, was a Chinese soup spoon. For many years, a guashi spoon. And it's a little, chicken. So I used that all the time. It was just a mint thing, but a huge amount of thumb pain. I didn't really get into, other ISTM tools just because I was so tightly wound up with my soup spoon. But rock blades comes in. It's got a bottle opener. You've already won me. Now, how long have the blades been around?
We've been doing them in Australia for about 9 months now.
Yeah.
So still pretty new. The Americans designed them. We let them trial them for a while before we took them in, iron out a few of the little issues. But no, they're going really well. So
were they based off anything? Do you know? What was it to take a boring product and make it exciting? Was that the shtick with Rock Blades USA? The Graston tools and the other tools. They're all boring and they're heavy and they cost $2,000.
Correct. That's right. So it's a bit cost prohibitive.
Yep.
So it was an idea of trying to come up with something that is more accessible for the practitioners, and then also challenge the processes. I guess the traditional processes with regards to using tools. More along the lines of the neuromodulation approach. So just basically, we rather than finding an adhesion and scraping it until to an extent that you get the therapeutic bruising, we feel it doesn't need to be quite as aggressive as that. And our approach is different and tends to get some really good results. Once again, it's just another adjunct that you can use to complement what you're already using in that space.
And the blade itself is thick enough that you can actually use it for massage, which is
that's right.
I found quite fascinating. As long as you understand the transfer of what a first year grad will come out and they won't ever feel with their fingertips.
Yes.
That's the risk, if they get into these things too quickly and they don't know. It's funny, like the end of your fingertips within the first 2 or 3 years of a physio just change. It's almost like a blind man being able to read Braille. Our fingers can wander over a body and know where things are disrupted. Then when you bring a tool into it, all of a sudden, you're trying to read Braille with thimbles on. That's what it feels like when you first start using it, but then after a while you get that transfer of energy and then you feel very connected to it. Where I was going with that is that my recommendation to new grads is to understand why the tool could be there, but make sure that they never prevent themselves from getting that tip control. Have the practitioners that have been getting into rock blades talked about the weight of the blade and the transference of those adhesions? What's the feedback on?
The feedback's been generally pretty positive. Obviously, the weight of the stainless steel blade is such that you don't really have to put much weight transfer into it. And the fact that you're taking away the resistance from your fingers on the skin, because you've got this nice smooth surface now, once again means that not as much effort needs to be put into the use of it. So it's just that little bit, like you say, of getting used to it, running it over the area, the tissue, feeling those corrugations, adhesions first, and then starting to...
Have you had it used on you much?
Yes.
Have you been a patient of it?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have a physio?
I'm a physio and a podiatrist that I see here in Perth. That, the podiatrist and physio both use them.
Yeah, good.
As one of their many adjuncts. Of course. Yes.
You need to.
Subject to it. I get it used regularly on my calves.
Yeah.
And look, it's just one of numerous adjuncts that the practitioners use, so I can't just say it's the blades.
It's the 1%ers.
Correct.
The 1%ers.
Yeah, and I think that'll be the idea is you're still assessing the reason for the issue.
Yeah.
You're looking then at so the reason for it, trying to prevent or change that, but then also looking at the treating the spot. So with massage, with dry needling, taping, the whole throw the kitchen together.
What advice can you give? So you deal with a lot of physios.
Yes.
You would deal with a lot. We've got a big spectrum, don't we?
Certainly do.
Now what? You also deal a lot with consumers, and you would probably get a lot of unbiased feedback for what physios are like. I would imagine, like consumers would tell a physio very polite stuff about physios. What advice can you give physios, in terms of physios that are out there, how to improve their way of dealing?
I think it's the biggest thing would be being open-minded to change and to continued learning, rather than, like you say, always being referring back to the evidence. What's the evidence behind certain things? It's not always available at the early stages, and that tends to prevent a number of physios from taking on the innovative approach. So I think that would be the main one. It's interesting. It's the physios that we've encountered, vary considerably from the young to open-minded to the older, more mature ones who are set in their ways.
What do they like to deal with?
Generally more challenging, but not often the fact that it's what they're trying to be that way. It's just that they're so used to treating a calf injury the same way. So to add taping at the end of their assessment, as an extra adjunct is something that they just sometimes don't think of. So it's like going to any PD session, looks fantastic, what you're being shown, but then the challenge is implementing into your daily routines when you return. Yeah,
cool. Now, so you've done 28 marathons.
That's correct, yes.
28 marathons. You're doing 2 a year. You do a destination marathon and a Perth.
Generally a Perth marathon, yes.
How many Perth marathons have you done?
13, number 14 in 5 weeks.
And you've gone under 3 hours?
Under 3 hours on the 13 so far. So
that is insane.
Hoping to keep the run going for a few more years.
How many Ks do you do every week? How many Ks are you doing?
It varies. I've never been a high mileage athlete.
When you say that, I don't know if I believe you, because I think that your high mileage and my high mileage are going to be two different things.
It could be. Most I've ever run a week's 110 kilometres. That was many years ago.
Yes, that seems like a few.
That's quite a few. Now it's more about quality than quantity.
Yes.
And combining.
What's your long run each week these days?
32 at the moment.
You're doing 30. You're doing a 32 every week.
Every second week at the moment.
It's a lot of Ks. It's a lot of Ks.
Yeah, no.
And do you keep that up all through the year?
No. It's sort of in the later stages of preparation for an event. Sort of.
So when you're out of event, what do you do? What are you running?
I mean, I love running. I love the endorphins. I love getting out there.
Are you an earphone runner?
Sorry, yeah.
Are you an earphone runner, or
no,
are you just with your own brain?
Yeah, just love hearing the tap of the feet, what's going on around me, that sort of thing.
Does your brain go into places then?
It does, yeah, particularly on the long runs.
Yes.
You've got 2 hours, 30 minutes to just,
Do you take nutrition when you go for those?
I do, yes.
What do you take?
I take carbo shots.
Carbo shots?
It's sort of an electrolyte replacement sort of gel.
Yeah. Do you find those are hard to like eat 2 hours in?
No, I used to, but it's something that I'm used to now. I almost gagged on the first one I had many years ago.
On the weekend, like 2 hours into the marathon, so just did a Ironman on the weekend. 2 hours in, every time my hand went to my face, I would go, Wah!
Yeah.
Wah! I wasn't even making the mouth.
Yeah.
So that goes away.
Exactly. These days it's just like
thank God.
Yeah, it does.
It's killing
changes.
So you're taking carbo shots.
Carbo shots, typically water. With my little batch of tablets that I pop in at the drink station.
What type of tablets?
It's a carbo shot tablet as well. So it's sort of
salts and
correct.
Kind
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you're running 2 nearly 3 hour marathons, right?
Yes.
So obviously it's not as hard as running a 4 hour marathon because you're not out there for as long. But are you talk to me about your nutrition through the run?
Yeah. Normally it's just making sure I'm well prepared.
Yep.
Night before.
Beers. Steak.
Plenty of carbs, yeah. That's right, and plenty of fluid. So start off on the right foot.
Do you take pisses in your runs ever?
Sometimes, yeah. No, I do.
What does that do to your run?
Obviously, I typically try and make my long runs as similar as I can to the race day, so that normally wouldn't involve a stop. But occasionally it does happen.
Do you have like a schedule every 5Ks you're taking a shot, or every 10Ks?
Yeah, I find that helps to break it up into smaller chunks. Yeah, so it's every 10 minutes, swig on the water bottle.
Yeah.
Every 30 to 40 minutes, carbo shot.
So you carry 5 of them with you?
I normally, it's obviously, it depends on the length of the run, but
in a 42, you're taking 5 or 6 with you?
Yeah, well, often they're on the course, so you're grabbing them as you go, finding out what's being provided. If it's the same product, use that. If not, you'd have to take them along.
Yeah.
And then.
And do you negative split your runs?
No, I find that ideally I would, but I find that normally a consistent pace tends to work better for me.
So you do maintain it the whole way?
Running with the Garmin, checking that. I feel naked if I haven't got my watch on. When
do you training run with your Garmin?
Yes,
as well.
Yeah, very much. Speed or related as opposed to the heart rate.
Yeah.
And just
because your heart rate, you probably wouldn't go above 70 beats a minute anymore.
It is pretty low, but
what is your resting heart rate?
I haven't checked it for a while. I did get down as low as 38.
No,
was the
no
resting,
way.
When I was a few years younger, but
dear oh dear.
Yeah, no, it's pretty low.
Are you doing Ks on the bike as well?
No, I do a bit of CrossFit, so just a bit of strength training that way.
Yes. How many days a week?
2 days a week.
Wow.
And I throw in a game of basketball as well, so it's a bit different as well.
So running 4 days a week, CrossFit?
3 days a week.
3 days a week.
2 CrossFits, 1 basketball,
and you got a family.
and a day off. Yeah, so.
And you got a family to boot.
Correct. Yes.
Kids.
Kids, 10 and 12,
10
so
and 12,
very much into their sport.
Yeah.
So, a lot of it's also about trying to be that role model for them. You know, they think running, exercise, basketball is normal, and hopefully, doing the best that they can.
That's it. There's this big movement towards getting schools to do it. But gee, it really starts with us not being fat and lazy at home, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, I remember a classic comment once where I was doing some dishes, shirt off. Must have been a warm night in Perth. And as boys tend to carry their fat, it's sort of just on the waist there, and a little bit must have been hanging over the side of the shorts. And the son comes up to me and says, "Dad, you're getting fat." And that's just
he fat shamed you.
He did.
He fat shamed you. I can't believe it.
That was it. It was like, hang on, I've got to change this. I can't have my son calling me fat. Whereas
my little boy does that to me all the time.
Yeah, so
he hasn't changed my behaviours yet. But I'm just like, he's 5, he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand how hard it is to say no. And you've done a couple of Ironmans.
Yes, dabbled in the Ironman as well, and love a challenge.
Did Busso. Would you recommend Busso? No, you did Foster.
I did Foster. And
was it when it was Foster?
Correct, yeah, before the Port Macquarie.
I heard the bike leg was so smooth.
The year I did it, it rained and bucket loads, and we had sheets of water and lots of flat tyres, and an unfortunate day. But if you want a fast course, Busso is very, very slick.
Is it a hot mix? Is it a hot mix ride?
Yeah, predominantly. So they go pretty slick down there on the bike.
So my Nuss did hold up okay on the weekend, but gee, it would have been nicer to be smoother. The Port Macquarie ride was it was not smooth.
Wow.
Oh, it was not smooth. It was the road's not hot mixed down pretty much anywhere. They've got killer hills at Port.
Wow. Okay.
They've got this one Matthew Flinders Drive, which they have to lay out carpet over the entire left-hand side all the way up, so that people can get off their bikes and walk. And on the second lap, proudly, I was the only one riding up when I went through. Now, albeit I came in at the 7-hour mark, so I was a bit slower than everybody else. But everybody was walking, and because it is that steep.
Yeah, to find the granny gear.
But I would have gotten so much shit if I had have walked, because I've got a couple of patients that told me that there is no way that they'll
Not acceptable.
Fantastic. So I did have to do it. But it's a good event though. It's really good fun. And gee, the atmosphere at them is insane. Is the atmosphere at Busso pretty electric? Similar?
It's pretty good, particularly around the transition area.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a loop course, so when you're out in the away from the town, I'm sure it gets a little bit quiet. But
cool.
these days they do it really well. The Ironman people.
And where's your next destination marathon?
I'm thinking about Vegas to go and do the Rock and Roll Marathon.
Yes.
So a band playing at every mile interval. I reckon that would be fun.
And where's the track go? Does it go down the strip?
It does go partly down the strip. Yeah. So it would be a very flat marathon.
What time of year?
I think it's October, November.
Yeah, so nice weather.
I'll have to try and combine it with a work trip over to Rocktape HQ.
So, normally they do it to a convention. Why do they always have conventions in Vegas? Well, I know why, but...
Must be the weather.
Must be the weather.
Yeah.
Consistently good weather, so you can have indoor conventions.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, cool. Mate, thanks for meeting up with us. It's been good talking to you. Good luck with Rocktape. Good luck with Rock Blades. We use your product and we love it, so we can vouch for it. Good luck to you and your family. And, it's good having you on.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Stuart.
No worries.
Cheers.